Over the last week or so, there's been this really awesome tweak going around that recreates the classic iPod using Swift UI. It contains a click wheel that you can rotate around to change the position of the albums in the scrollable view above it. And if you've ever owned an iPod, it will definitely make you feel some nostalgia. As soon as I saw this tweet, I knew that I was going to have to build it in Flutter, and that's what this video is all about. If you're new here, like and subscribe, and grab the full source code from Fireship.io. Let's start by taking a closer look at the app we're building in this video. Now, I realize that everybody is sick of Flutter UI challenges, but this video is really all about the UI. We're not going to request access to the user's music or play actual audio files, but there are plenty of Flutter plugins out there if your goal is to build a full-blown audio player. Now, if we look at the top of the UI, you'll see that I have a scrollable page view widget. It focuses an individual item in the center and then animates it into the view when it's moving. The off-screen images are given some perspective so they look 3D and then rotated. The rotation is calculated based on their position in the page view, and that's how we get these cool animations when the scroll position changes. Now, moving down to the click wheel, we can go from one item to the next by clicking the forward or backwards buttons. But the real challenge with this demo was creating a click wheel that you can pan across either clockwise or counterclockwise and have the scroll view rotate in the proper direction. So when the wheel is rotating clockwise, it should move the page view to the right. When it's moving counterclockwise, it should move the page view back to the left. And we can do all this with just a regular gesture detector and some basic math. We don't need a custom painter or trigonometry or anything crazy like that. In fact, we don't need a single dependency for this project, so let's go ahead and jump into a Flutter app. The first thing you'll notice is that I have a list of image URLs to show the album covers, which is completely optional because those images sit on top of some colored containers, so you can omit them altogether if you want. Now, down in our main material app, we'll go ahead and add a scaffold, and then inside that scaffold, we'll add our iPod widget. The first thing I'll do is show you how to set up a scrollable page view. In our stateful widget, we'll first instantiate a page controller, and we'll set the viewport fraction to 0.6. This allows the next and previous page to overflow into the view, so you get a preview of what's coming next, which is similar to the classic iPod UI. If you have a viewport fraction of 1, which is the default, it will fill up the entire view. The next thing we'll do is set up a stateful property called current page, which starts at 0. And the reason we have this as state on the widget is because we want to update the UI anytime the current page changes. And there's multiple ways the user can change that value, either by using the click wheel, by pressing a button, or by using the page view directly. We can update that value whenever a change occurs by adding a listener to the page controller. So whenever the current page changes, it will trigger a re-render on the component, which will be useful once we get to the animation part. Now let's move down to our build method. We'll start with a safe area widget that will prevent the page view from interfering with the status bar at the top. And that's actually an optimization I got from my friend Mawuli Joe on Twitter, so thanks for that. From there, we'll set up a column, and the first item in that column will be a container with a height of 300 and a black background. The child of that container will be a page view builder. The page view builder allows you to render all of the items in the page view dynamically. It's similar to a virtual scroll feature on the web where you're only actually rendering the items that are visible in the view, so it can handle an infinitely large collection. We'll pass it our page controller, then set the scroll direction to horizontal, then provide an item builder function that contains the current index of the page in the view. Now, because we can have an infinite number of pages in the page view, I'll go ahead and create a new stateless widget called an album card. It takes a color as its input, along with the current index and the current page. Now, you might be wondering why we need the current page and the current index, because intuitively you might think that they are the same value. And while they're almost the same value, the current index is an integer, while the current page is a double. As you'll see in just a second, we can compare these two values to determine how far offset one of the pages is relative to the center. And we can use that relative position to create some cool 3D transformations. Now let's go ahead and create the album card stateless widget. We'll start by passing in the properties that we just talked about. Then we'll calculate this card's relative position from the center by subtracting the current page from the current index. If the value is negative, we know the page is on the left side. If it's positive, we know it's on the right side. From there, we'll set up a container with a child of a transform widget. Now, I could probably do a whole video on transforms, so don't worry if this part feels a little overwhelming. Our transformation starts as a 4x4 matrix. Basically, this allows you to take a 3D point in space and perform other transformations on it like translation, rotation, scale, and so on. We produce the actual matrix by calling setEntry, and the typical starting arguments that you'll see here are 3, 2, and 0.001, but feel free to play around with these to get different effects. From there, we'll change the scale or the size of the widget. I had to play around with these values a little bit, but I found it looked best when I clamped the values to range between 0.6 and 1.0. So the page in the center will be scaled to 1, but the pages on the sides will be scaled to around 0.6. And lastly, we'll add a transformation to rotate around the y-axis based on the relative position. And if you want to get really crazy with things, also go ahead and add a rotation to the z-axis. When it comes to the alignment of the individual pages, we want the items on the right side to be aligned center left, and then the items on the left side to be aligned center right. Then everything below that is just your basic UI. So we have a container that has a decoration image with a network image that points to one of the images in our list. If we fire up our app at this point, we should have a page view that looks something like this. When we pan across the view, it cycles between the albums and animates the transformations between them. Now that that's taken care of, we can move on to the fun part, which is building our radial click wheel. It will take the page controller that we've already built and then allow the user to pan either clockwise or counterclockwise to control the position of the page view. And we'll also add velocity to it as well, so if the user pans faster, it will scroll through the items faster. Let's head back up to the column that contains our page view builder. Just below it, we'll go ahead and add a centered widget that contains a child of a stack. The first thing we'll want in the stack is a gesture detector, and the gesture we care about is onPanUpdate. That event will fire continuously whenever the user is moving their finger across this container. For now, I'm just going to add a placeholder function there called panhandler, and we'll implement that in just a minute. Then we can create a circle by setting up a container with a width and a height. Then we'll give it some box decoration where the shape is box-shaped circle. Now on the iPod, you have more of a donut shape or a circle within a circle. And we only want to fire the pan event when the user is moving throughout the outside circle or the black circle. If they pan across the inner gray circle, then nothing should happen. Because we're inside of a stack that's aligned to the center, we can simply add another container that also has a box shape of circle. And because it has a higher index in the stack, it will sit on top of the gesture detector and won't allow the events to get through when it is panned over. Now you'll also notice that we have different buttons inside the wheel itself. I'm not going to implement all of these, only the forward and back buttons. These buttons also sit inside their own stack, and they're positioned relative to the circle so they appear in the right locations. The ones that are actually pressable are set up as an icon button. When they're pressed, they'll take the page controller and then animate to the current page +1, or if we're going backwards, the current page -1. So now when the user taps one of these buttons, it will animate to the next page or the previous page and give us a nice looking animation in the process. And with that, we're ready to move on to the final challenge, and that's making our click wheel rotatable. Let's start by making sure we understand how a wheel works. We can break a wheel up into different quadrants. We have the top right, the bottom left, and the top left. So those are the different parts of the wheel, but then the user can actually pan with their finger in 4 different directions as well. They can go up, down, left, or right. And if we think of this as an XY axis, then we know that different movements or positions are mutually exclusive. Like the user can't be going X positive and X negative at the same time. Or in other words, the user can't move left and right at the same time. Now our panhandler method will have access to the drag update details for every event. And that event contains things like the delta or the amount of change since the user's last movement, as well as the local position of that user's movement on the widget itself. To make our code readable, I'm going to go ahead and set up variables for all these different values. Since our circle widget has a fixed width of 300 pixels, we'll go ahead and set up a radius value of 150. We can determine where the user is dragging by looking at the local position. We know the user is on the top half of the circle if the local position on the y-axis is less than or equal to the radius. We know they're on the left side if the local position x-axis is less than or equal to the radius. Now we know if the user's on top, then they can't be on bottom, or if they're on the left side, they can't be on the right side. So we'll grab those values by simply grabbing the opposite of their counterpart. To determine the direction of the user's movement, we can look at the delta on the event. Delta is just a fancy word for change. It represents the amount of movement that the user has made since the last event. In this case, we know that they're moving up if the y movement is less than or equal to 0. Or they're moving left if the x movement is less than or equal to 0. And then we can use a bang to get their opposites just for the sake of making our code a little more readable. Now that we can pinpoint exactly how and where a user is panning around, we'll go ahead and set up values for the x change and y change as their absolute values. And now we need to make this value negative or positive depending on which way they're rotating the wheel. Let's start by thinking about how vertical movement should change the rotation of the wheel. If they're on the right side and panning down, or on the left side and panning up, then that Y change should be positive or clockwise. Otherwise, it'll be negative or counterclockwise. So we just take the total change and multiply it by -1. Now we'll do the same thing for the horizontal rotation. If we're on top and panning right, or on the bottom and panning left, then the change is clockwise, otherwise counterclockwise. So to get the total rotation value, all we have to do is add these two values together. It's also a good idea to add velocity, so if the user is panning faster, it will scroll through the items faster. And we can do that by multiplying by the delta distance. And now that we have all the data we need, we just need to use our page controller to jump to a new position. And that new position is the current page controller offset plus the scroll offset change that we just calculated. And that's all there is to it. You can now use the same logic to implement a rotatable knob or some kind of wheel or any other type of radial UI widget that the user has control over. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe, and consider becoming a pro member at Fireship.io to get access to the full Flutter course, along with a bunch of other advanced content for members only. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.